Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne. I train people for improved personal and professional development, offering my assistance to those ready to develop their goals into tangible, focused, and achievable plans of action. And this podcast is one of the tools I use to accomplish my mission. Generally, when the timer hits 9 minutes and 59 seconds on this recording, you'll have a fully developed life lesson that you can take with you and begin to implement immediately. And if this week's lesson has a ring of familiar, then it's probably a reinforcement of a life change you've already started to implement. This podcast falls under the umbrella of my greater personal development efforts, all under the Your Better You brand. For more information on accountability coaching or to gain access to tools, tricks, and life hacks, visit yourbetteryou.info. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. Now, here is this week's life lesson. You never know when trouble will strike, when a problem will arise, when something just will come up short. So that's why you plan ahead. You stock up on items that you know at certain times are scarce. You put things in place for emergency contingencies when you know it's a time where things can go crazy. Fire season, hurricane season, tornado season, snow season. You have things in place ready to go. Maybe you are a frequent traveler and you have a go bag, a bag already packed, ready to go, just in case you have a short notice to get packed and ready to go. You are already packed and ready to go. So that's why if you have a person out there who tends to be a stronger person, especially, but someone that you definitely call an ally, somebody who's always there in your corner whenever you're in need, you give the call and they are there for you. You have to make sure you're taking the time out and seemingly at random times to check in on your allies. And I mentioned random times, random checkups, because as we said, you never know when a surprise attack is going to come up or when something's not right. And maybe that ally isn't in the right frame of mind or just not in the right place to let people know things are going wrong before things go wrong. So sometimes it's a matter of showing up at random times just to check in and say hi and make sure they're doing fine. But especially in times when you know that times can be difficult, holiday times especially, when people who tend to be the strongest tend to feel a little less open to other people, letting them know that things aren't so great. Those are times when you really need to check in on those allies. But that's all about timing. You can check in on somebody anytime you feel like it, but what do you do when you're doing these check-ins and maybe a self-check-in to make sure that you are all lined up at the same time? You can practice on yourself to see how you think other people will get along with it. Well, you simply start by reaching out and saying hello. That's simple. A simple hello. We tend to have a lot of people, a lot of engagements that are far-flung across the world. For myself personally, I have people that I've known since grade school. And since I started off grade school as a military dependent, that meant a lot of moving around, a lot of meeting people there. And then I finished high school in a regular old civilian school, sort of out in the middle of nowhere. So I have a batch of friends who aren't attached to my military background. And then I have people attached to my actual military service background and college backgrounds and post things and whatever. So I have people all over the place. Now, while we do know that it is scientifically impossible to carry on true, deep relationships with no more than about 100 actual people at a time, we do have thousands of people usually in our purview, in our influence that we have a reach on. People that we may not talk to every single day, people we may not talk to at all, but some people that listen to something that we say. Like I said, the simple, hey, what's up, is always a good start. Whenever you get one of those weird sort of Instagram messages or Facebook posts or email newsletters from some person that you're in a fan club of or something you've bought a program or product from, and they reach out to you, it is partially sort of reconnecting to maybe engage in more commerce, but it is also reaching out to fans, giving people who give them support some support. Some of the deepest stories you will hear is from those people who have made it, telling their personal stories of how they've had times when they didn't feel like they were going to make it, and reminding you that you have a chance as well. You have a shot to make it as well. So a simple, hey, how's it going, is always a great start to checking on someone. And they may just reply back with a doing okay. That's a start. Now, if you really want to dig deep into what's happening, you have to have some sort of deeper relationship. And how deep the relationship is kind of up to you. But it has to be more than just surface level, more than just, hey, I'm a fan of what you're doing. Thank you so much. Because checking in on friends and allies means being friendly or being allies in some sense. It doesn't have to be extremely deep or long going or even practically anything that's active. It could have been some ally from something in a past campaign that is no longer there, but they still are cordial and friendly, and doesn't hurt to have a number just in case he might have some skills that are needed for the future. But you have to have some level of connection there and understand the level of connection. You can't overshoot it and you shouldn't undershoot it. You can say hey to anybody in the world you want to. In fact, I do that often. I send every 3 days or so, I send out random text messages, random for my part, text messages and IM messages to people who I've met along the lines in this internet world and real world, just to say, hey, how's it going? Just thought about you today and wanted to say hello. And that will spark usually a quick 3 or 4 message conversations over a day or so and moving on from there. I've checked in on some folks that I've had some relationships with, and that's there. Now, the hardest part of reaching out to allies are literally the allies who like to be strong people. They like to put up the front that they're really big and strong. And sometimes they are that big and strong, but they don't like to put out the notion that they've got some sensitivity, they have some issues, they have something that's always a thing. People who tend to get a little moody around certain days because of events that happen or holidays in particular are those people. And those are the ones that need the most checking in on, but usually get the least because you don't want to impose. Here's where I am telling you, you probably ought to slightly impose. If you know someone who's really thick and tough and that many people aren't reaching out to at the times that you're pretty sure they're probably needing a recharge, then reach out. Feel free to go as deep and open as you want to if you are that person, if you are a person that can do that, and be prepared to kind of deal with it. Because in most cases, you'll get a little bit of brushing off, you get some backlash, but what's the actuality is they really do enjoy it and appreciate you reaching out to them. They just don't know how to express it in a way that mere mortals will take as something that's good. They just know how to brush it off because they feel they should not be in a position of being weak, and opening up can open up to a position of weakness to the wrong people. But remember, you are an ally. You're not an enemy. You are a person who has this person's back. So you need to remind them you are a person who has that person's back and that you're going to do what you can to make sure they are okay. Number one, and if they're not okay, get through whatever they're going to get through. Number two. And by the way, you need to know your level of sufficiency at the moment because maybe you're not doing so great. You're reaching out in these cases, not reaching out for help. These are wellness checks on allies. So you're not reaching out asking for something. You're reaching out checking on them. So if you're not in the best of health, you can still be sympathetic to what's going on in someone's life and offer them support, but your support may be limited. Now, if you are at full strength and have nothing else going on but your own great things at the moment, be prepared to offer up a little bit of assistance, which is why you can't reach out to too many people at a time until you know that they are all okay. You must still conserve your energy and your resources so that you maintain a good level of health and fitness on your end. So you can only help out so many people before diminishing your own reserves. So take that to heart. You may want to reach out to a lot more people in a deeper way, but the deepness you can go with people will be limited to how much you actually can give. You can say a quick hello to as many people in the world as you want to, but you can't offer full, deep assistance to every single one. It is impossible, so there's no even a reason to even attempt it. You only have so much in general on a good day, and especially if you're on a bad day, so you only have so much to give up. Make sure you protect your reserves when you're checking in on your allies, but also be able to offer up something in case they need a little bit going on. And if you get to where it's getting to be a chore, then offer up the low level, hey, what's up? Because you can do that with very little actual energy expounded. And trust me, sometimes people just being inquired on, checked in on, someone just asking about them is the greatest thing in the world. Who you have as allies is important and should be maintained on a grand level, but you don't always have grand level energy to take care of that. So maintain it as best you can. But remember, it's always good to check in on the guys who have your back. Thank you for joining us for this week's podcast. Last week's podcast was an episode where we talked about taking time off and taking time away, and that is essentially what we're doing. We are offering fresh podcasts for the holiday season up into the middle part of the new year, but they are fresh podcasts, mostly pre-recorded and mostly sourced from previously released or in the pipeline to be released recycled content, stuff that was already essentially written up, just rewritten for the podcast. It's a good thing to have. I have probably 15 years worth of personal development writings out there, maybe 20 if you go back even further than that, just nothing that's not even formalized. And it's good to have that to fall back on because, as I say often, repetition is how you learn things. But it's also good to have things that are mostly done, halfway done, just almost complete, that you can twist around and turn into what you need to happen. And that's what we're doing for a few weeks of these podcasts here, using some of the content that's been used. And the content that we'll probably hear mostly comes from Welcome to Your Monday messages. Some of them released, some of them not quite released yet. So technically, it's some brand new content in some of these days. So you can thank me for that. If you want to thank me, you can reach out to me at yourbetteryouinfo@gmail.com, our email address, or at the website, yourbetteryou.info. Of course, at the website, 2 podcasts and an article every week. First podcast is, of course, Steps to Your Better You, 90 seconds of quick information. This one, the 10-minute life lesson, and an article every single week, plus details on how you can get in contact with us for coaching and other assistance. That is, of course, yourbetteryou.info. More about me particularly, check out jclevelandpayne.net and jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. Share it with a friend. Share it with some folks that you know can really use it. And make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss out on episodes on whatever podcatcher you want. We don't care what it is. You just use it and leave us a rating and review there so that people on that platform can see that we're pretty cool. We think we're pretty cool. In the meantime, we're going to wrap this up and do some more pre-records for this holiday season as I'm taking some time away from the computer myself, not even checking stats for a couple of weeks. Here from the 10-Minute Life Lesson, which is brought to you every week by yourbetteryou.info.